Welcome, bet riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laid Back Bike Report. Well, guys, we have a terrific show lined up for you today. Let me tell you what is on the list. First of all, of course, we're going to open up with Honza Galla and the Recumbent news of the month. And next, we're going to go to Orlando, Florida, where we meet George, a gentleman who has designed and built some coroplast trike fairings. I should say fairings for his trikes. He's got multiple trikes there. Really beautiful stuff. I think you'll enjoy that. Our featured segment this month has to do with Battle Mountain. You may remember that Trey and I are going to be heading actually to Nevada, Battle Mountain next month. And in service of that, we are doing a series of segments about Battle Mountain. This month, we're going to get up close and personal with a team from the UK who has worked on a bike, a streamliner that will be racing at Battle Mountain, and find out all about what's involved with doing something like that. I think you're going to enjoy that. We did advertise that Al and Alice Krause were going to be with us, the co-directors of Battle Mountain. Actually, I did talk to them yesterday. We recorded a really nice segment, but I've got a lot of work to do on that. We're going to push that to next month on September 4th. So look for that as our next important Battle Mountain segment. We do have Nina Paley with us today talking about her gravel bike riding adventure. She's got a new laid back gravel bike, and it's kind of cool. So I think you will enjoy that. No sports report today. We don't have Denny, but we do have a very special viewer submission about some military veterans here in the U.S. who have attended a parade to encourage triking amongst veterans. And I think you'll enjoy that as well. So let's meet our crew, the folks who helped me on the show today. We will travel out, first of all, to Colorado Springs, where we see Larry Sideman, who will be directing the show today. As you see, hi, Larry.
Hey, Gary.
Great to have you with us down in Jackson, Mississippi. It's Trey Burgoyne. We mentioned him earlier. He's heading out with me to help me out at Battle Mountain. Today, he's going to be doing some of our media like he usually does. Hey, Trey, how's it going?
Going great. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you. And let's see, Cold Spring, Kentucky, somewhere around there. I know it's been raining a lot, but Larry is above water. He tries to keep himself above water. Larry Varney, how you doing?
Howdy. Yeah, it has rained most of the morning, but it's just cloudy right now. So
yeah, and yet not obscuring the moon, which is important.
Is it safe to say Moon River?
There you go. A nice song from Trey. And down in Dallas, Texas, don't forget to mute yourself. Yeah, hey, Doug, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Trey. We need to get some of that rain sent our way. We haven't had any in a while.
Yeah, we'll see about sending that to you. So, all right, guys, thanks for helping me out today. We will be talking to you all later. Don't hesitate to pop up during any of our discussions if any of you have questions or comments about what's going on. Now, that's how our crew can participate. How can you, as viewers, participate in this show? Well, it's through the live chat. So if you're watching either on Facebook or on YouTube, you have a live chat to comment, ask questions of anything that you see going on in the show. And for sure, let us know where you are watching from. It's always nice to know where our viewers are. So how can you support the Laid Back Bike Report? Well, you can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can also just click that little white eye up there. That will take you to the Laid Back Bike Report website, where you can find out much more what the upcoming shows are, what we've had in the past. You can connect to all those. We have our podcast, the audio podcast version of the show there. You can buy a hat like you see these guys up here have. So any of those things. And you can also click on the Patreon link there, which will take you to patreon.com, where you can become a patron of the Laid Back Bike Report, like all of these folks with the orange letter P on their pictures. You can do that for as little as $1 a month. So thank you to all our Patreon supporters. We appreciate them. All right, guys, let me tell you about the sponsors of the Laid Back Bike Report. We have, of course, TerraCycle, makers of exquisite recumbent parts and accessories for your bent, and Trailside Trikes, a fine recumbent trike shop on the Withlacoochee Trail in Florida, and now in Knoxville, Tennessee as well. And TerraTrike Greenspeed, the best in leisure, performance, adventure, touring, electric, and portability. Whatever your adventure leads, TerraTrike will take you there. And Greenspeed, where Ian Sims designs, bring performance through science and engineering. And Laid Back Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike, Ice, and Greenspeed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our mega store in Chariton. And Avenue Trikes. With the gearing you need and the comfort you want, it's time to enjoy riding again. They're in stock, ready to ship, and only $19.95. Dealer inquiries are welcome. And Azub. This company is a 3-time winner of the Trike of the Year award and has brought several unique technological solutions to the world of recumbent bikes, including the titanium front suspension on the Ti-Fly trike. Combined with the tuned rear suspension, it provides its owner with the absolute comfort throughout the ride. And Recumbent PDX. With a 150 trike inventory, Recumbent PDX is the West Coast's only cat trike megastore. We have over 20 trikes on our showroom floor just waiting for you to test ride through our beautiful Portland neighborhood. Call or email to schedule your ride today. And EcoCycles, leaders in electric assist and customer support, with a line of specialized conversion kits to retrofit just about any bent model out there. Check them out at cycles.eco right now. All right, folks, we are going to jump right into it with our pal Honza Galla and the recumbent news of the month.
Hi guys, Honza Galla from recumbent.news here once again with the news from the recumbent world from the last month. As I mentioned last time, June was kind of crowded with news. Same for July. I visited the Eurobike show, which is the biggest bicycle show in the world. And it was really a game changer, at least for me, because usually there were tons of, road bikes, mountain bikes, gravel bikes, and in the last years, all different electric bikes. But this year, it was all about cargo bikes, about very different approaches, the different approach to cargo bikes, to different mobility, personal mobility vehicles, small ones, and just looking at the test track, there were hardly any non-electric upright bikes. There were even hardly any electric bikes of a standard view. It was mostly about all different cargo bikes and different other bikes you can use. And it seems that people were just no longer hesitating to ride on different bikes. So they were riding on recumbents as well. Although there were basically only two manufacturers, at least the big ones, we know very well. So only two of them were exhibiting recumbents. It was the HP Velotechnik and Honza bikes, of course. But besides that, the pod bike was very visible with its three-car quad velomobile or light electric vehicle, as Doug Davis would like to name it. And then also the Pony 4 with their quad, which was nice to see them on the Eurobike. And finally the Pima bike or the EQ Hawk. But from what I understood, they had some kind of car issues, so they couldn't bring the latest prototype to the show, so I could hold only the model, which was kind of disappointment for me. Anyway, I'm preparing a longer video for Recumbent News, so you will see it sooner or later. And right from the Eurobike show, where I could spend only one day, I headed to France, to Orgel, for the World Championship or Human Powered Vehicles World Championship, which was really amazing. It was an amazing atmosphere, a lot of great bikes, a lot of interesting racing. I was not racing, I'm not really in shape, not training at all, but I was trying my best to capture it. I was flying the drone and photographing, and I'm almost ready with a long video from the championship, so you can look forward to that as well. And another news is from Germany again, from I think it was the Dekra Oval, the Dekra Test Track, and Niki Walde, German female rider and athlete, broke the 24-hour record with doing 1,130 kilometers, which is 702 miles. And so that's an amazing amount of kilometers you can cover in 24 hours in a very special custom-built velomobile. So yeah, I also hope to bring some more information later next month or so. And the final news is from the industry. ASUP finally introduced their version of the ultra comfortable padded seat for trikes. Same like you know from Cat Trike or Terra Trike or HP Velo and Ice. So here it is. It's called the Dream Seat, and yeah. So that's the final news, basically, from the news item from the world of recumbent bikes. And I wish you a great rest or the biggest part of the Laid Back Bike Report. So yeah, enjoy and see you next time. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Honza. That's beautiful behind you there. I think Honza is actually working on a new house that he's building. So that might be the area where he is. I don't know. It's absolutely gorgeous behind him there. So thanks, Honza, once again. Let's move along then to our first segment today. As I mentioned in the intro, George from Orlando sent me this email about some of the work that he's been doing over the years about building these Coroplast fairings for his trikes. They're really cool looking. I think you guys will like this. So let's have a look at it, Larry. Well, guys, we are here with George from Orlando, Florida. George, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Gary. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Of course. I'm really excited to share your story with our audience. First of all, why don't you tell the folks what your bent riding history is?
Okay, well, started riding in early 2016 when I bought an ice adventure at Trailside Trikes. And then I ended up riding that a lot and also putting a Bionics motor on it. And then I ended up getting a second trike, a Scorpion, a few years later from Trailside. And so I have two of them. And as you can imagine, I ride them quite a bit. Central Florida, we get 12 months of riding. As long as you can stand riding in the summer, if you ride early, then you can ride all year.
You contacted me with a few pictures about what you have modified on these trikes, and we're going to get into that in a second. To not to spill the beans too soon, but of course, what these are fairings and canopy kind of setups made out of chloroplast. Why do you do this? What prompted you to build these fairings and these canopies for your trikes?
Yes, well, originally I had the ice adventure, and I rode it for a year in Florida, and I found my legs were cooked, and I was trying to figure out what to do. I didn't want to wear pants, long pants, but I knew it wasn't good to be out in the sun like that. So I was thinking about it, and I thought a canopy might be a good idea. And it was a good idea, except then you had to figure out how to do it. So,
and that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's maybe now would be a good time to actually jump in here.
This was the first fairing I built. It was designed to shade my legs from the Florida sun. And I ran 1 year without it, as I said. And then I decided to build this fairing. And it was made of, I had a 4x8 sheet of coroplast and 1/2-inch PVC pipe and connectors, zip ties, and Velcro. And that's the materials I used to build it. And as we get on later in the slideshow, I think you can see some more designs on how the PVC and Velcro and zip ties go together. The one challenge that I did have with these building was entry and exit to the trike, because normally on a trike, obviously you get in from the front, stand and sit back. So, and the other challenge on future builds has been to connect the fairing to the trike. So those are the two challenges that I had to overcome as time went on. So this is a picture of the fairing on the trike. And if you see where the 343 is, that flips up, and I kind of squeeze in behind the fairing and the flipped up part so that I can get into the seat. And the canopy, I did not make. I bought that from a fellow in Pennsylvania, but he no longer makes them. And I added some coroplast sunshades on the side, and this worked very well, actually protecting me from the sun. So that's where it all began. Then I decided, because I saw the Velomobiles, I thought maybe I'll try to build a full body fairing, full body trike. So using coroplast again, 1/2-inch PVC, zip ties, and Velcro. What you see here is a sheet of 4x8 cut lengthwise in half. So I ended up with two pieces of 2 feet by 8 feet coroplast, and joined at the rear of the trike with zip ties. And then I added another piece to the front to kind of round it off. It gave it kind of a teardrop shape, which is supposed to be aerodynamic. And I already had a 26-inch rear wheel cover that I had purchased, so I made two little 20-inch wheel covers for the front wheels. So they're on there now. And then I added the top, which is black coroplast. I had black and white coroplast sheets purchased from a local plastic dealer. Which I put them on with zip ties and covered the edges with black duct tape. So, and this is the completed, I call it my first Batmobile. The top flips open. See the ridge along there. The top flips open for entry and exit. And this worked pretty well, but was tricky getting in and out. Sometimes you get your foot caught getting in and out. So I made additional size reductions to the coroplast from the original at the bottom and at the rear. And that's the rear. And I added reflective duct tape, black duct tape at the rear. The teardrop shape worked surprisingly well. Actually, I tested it on a hill with the body on and with the body off. And it was actually 2 miles an hour faster with the body on. So I got a kick out of that being aerodynamic. And then here was my next build. I decided I wanted to have a complete flip open front, which was a real challenge, and a separate canopy. I used 1-inch PVC pipe and connectors. For the hinge, I used a 1-inch PVC slip T, which I'll explain that as we go. A slip T is a T that allows the pipe inside of it to move, so it actually becomes a hinge. The 1-inch PVC slip Ts are connected to the 1-inch PVC pipe that slides inside. It actually slides perfectly inside a 1 1/4-inch PVC pipe. So and that 1 1/4 inches at the bottom of the trike. It's mounted permanently to the bottom. And I'll explain more as we go. And then I wanted a canopy, so I made the canopy out of 1/2-inch PVC. And the curved metal clamps you see coming off the helping hands, I purchased at a bike shop, and I attached the helping hands to the front vertical pieces of PVC. I needed to allow space for the fairing to come down, so I had to move the PVC pipe, vertical pipes, horizontal pipes back a little bit. And this is all different challenges that you face in building something that hasn't been built before, that you're designing yourself. But it was a great challenge and a lot of fun. This was just an example of an earlier building in the works. I call this making it up as you go along. And so many of the designs get altered as these projects progress. So this was altered significantly. And then finally, the completed Batmobile has yellow and black duct tape on it and a Batman decal. And all that yellow is really for visibility. That's the real reason. It looks great, but hopefully people can see me. And then also the front headlight. The headlight is behind the rubber floor drain I purchased from Home Depot. And I also added white reflective circles on the back of the mirrors. And this is the clamps that I used. Now this is a zinc plated pipe clamp, and I used 2 of these to attach the 1 1/4-inch PVC pipe to the bottom of the frame. And you'll see that up here. Next slide it shows you the back clamp. I used 2 of them. And what it is it's holding that 1 1/4-inch pipe along the bottom of the frame, and that with the 2 butterfly bolts, also the one butterfly bolt behind the clamp goes all the way through the 1 1/4-inch pipe and the 1-inch pipe, which is slid inside. So when I want to remove the fairing, I just disconnect that little back butterfly clip and slide the fairing out. But the black pipe that you see stays there. So the front pipe clamp. This is the front pipe clamp, and the 1 1/4-inch PVC extends about 1 foot out further than the bottom bracket. And this allows room to pedal without touching the fairing. And this is the slip sling PVC that you use, allows the pipe to go through it and turn freely. This became the hinge for my builds. And this is just a picture of the inside of the fairing that shows that, and this one had 2 slip Ts, one on each side. I found them to be so sturdy that for my future builds, I only used 1. And the rubber grate is held in place by butterfly screws. And this is it. This is the Batmobile with the fairing flipped open. And it worked really well. It actually stopped right there and held itself open, so you can enter and exit the trike. And And another challenge was when the fairing flipped closed, how I would hold it in place. And I had helping hands on there, and you could see that it's also attached to the helping hands was the canopy attachment below, and then on the left is the mirror attachment. Yeah, on that mirror attachment, I slipped a 1-inch piece of PVC pipe on there, and then covered it in Velcro on the bottom of the fairing. And I cut a 1/2-inch PVC T. I cut that in half and added Velcro to that, so that when the two of them, and next slide, when the two of them came together, the Velcro held it in place. So it was held on both sides with this Velcro, and then it was held at the front with the slip T. And it worked really well. The canopy is held in the back. It fits tightly between the seat back and the seat frame. And the PVC pipe actually goes down past the second frame, so it's really snug. So it worked out really well. And then this is the other trike, the Scorpion. And I kind of did the same kind of builds with the Scorpion too. This was my first shade for my legs. The minimal fairing was to shade my legs, and you can see it from the front. It looks a lot bigger than it actually is. But again, I used red and white duct tape for visibility. And then I decided on the Scorpion to build a new fairing similar to the Batmobile, but slimmer. This one's slimmer. You could see the orange piece in this is the slip T. That's the one that actually it allows the fairing to open and close. And the long 1-inch PVC pipe, that's the thing that slips into the 1 1/4-inch PVC pipe that is attached to the bottom of the Scorpion. The attachment pieces in the bottom here, bottom of the photo, are for the helping hands, and they only needed to be 1.5 inch. And the black zip ties inside the fairing, they weren't cut off yet, so they'll all be snipped off. And that's it all together. It's finished with the white duct tape and a dragon decal. And that's it from the front. I added a rectangle vent to the front for the light. It's hard to see in that picture, but it's between those two white stripes in the front. And then finally, I just threw in a picture of some of the many drawings that I made trying to figure out how to build these things and design the fairings and canopies. It was a lot of time and effort, but it was a lot of fun. It was truly a labor of love.
Well, I love that. I love that. I have a couple of questions for you. They're beautiful. First of all, I mean, the work is really interesting and the design, but the execution, I mean, those are beautiful, George. So how many have you done? It looks like there are 2 bikes. It looks like maybe 2 trikes, I should say. And it looks like maybe 3 different projects. What exactly have you done?
Yeah, well, I did 2 of those small fairings, and then I did a full body, and then I did 2 of the as you saw, the flip up ones with the canopies. But in between there, I probably destroyed a few that I didn't like the way they were working out. But the ones that I completed, I guess was 5 of them, maybe 6. There was another one I had that I just used for a while.
Okay. So now the next question that comes to my mind is interchangeability. So you have 2 different trikes there. I'm guessing when you build for one trike, it doesn't work on the other, but within building of the same trikes, like for the ice or for the HP, could you change out these canopies and fairings?
Yes. The HP, you can put the small fairing back on, the original one, if you wanted to. And so there's 2 different fairings for that, 2 different bodies. But the ice actually has 4 now with the one I forgot. It has the full body, which can still go on. I left the Velcro. I didn't show where all the Velcro is on the full body, but It's on the back frame of the trike, and so I actually have probably 4 different bodies that I could put on the ice right now. Though I really like this one, this last one, the Batmobile with the flip open front.
Now, how much does it cost to build these things? Typically, chloroplast is not known for its high expense. So, can you do these things relatively inexpensively?
Absolutely, yeah. The coroplast I usually buy in bulk, and you buy 4x8 sheets, and usually if you spend over $100, they give you like $20 a sheet. You can get the white ones at Home Depot, but to get like different colors, you have to go to a specialty plastics shop that has all sorts of plastic fittings and things like that. We have one in Orlando, so I've been down there a couple of times and bought coroplast a couple of times from them. And as long as you got something that can carry it home, you're okay.
I've already said how beautiful these came out, and you clearly are very skilled at doing this. But how about the average Joe triker? Could I put something together like this?
Yes, I am not skilled. No, I don't have a background in engineering or mechanical drawing or anything like that. It's really just a labor of love for me. I just got into it. I tried it and I messed up a little bit, but it's just, PVC is so cheap. You buy PVC pipe, PVC fittings, coroplast, as I said, those 4x8 sheets go a long way, and zip ties are nothing. So, what I would say is if anyone's really interested, just start looking at your trike, start brainstorming, try different things. Everything isn't going to work and you're not going to be happy with everything. But when you find something you like, you're going to feel real happy about it.
Are there any more on the drawing board, George?
I don't know. That's still up in the air. So I just completed the HPV, the second body, which I was really happy with because it is slimmer and lighter than the first one, the black Batmobile. So there's always a possibility. Right now it's the summer, so I don't like to be out in the garage in Florida in the summer building, but maybe this winter.
All right. Anything we've forgotten, George? Anything else you'd like? Any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Well, in just deciding what material to use, and I had many different ideas on what material to use. Coroplast is amazing. It's so lightweight, it's waterproof, and it's sturdy. I mean, I banged into a lot of different things. The trail in my garage, and it's just excellent material to use. The zip ties work great. So that would be my recommendation, Coroplast.
All right, that sounds great. Well, George, I'm so glad you contacted me. You told me, and I had forgotten that on a previous webcast, you had been a contest winner and have one of our Laid Back Bike Report hats to show for it. So we're glad that you continue to watch, and thank you so much for taking the time to share these builds, these chloroplast fairings and canopies with the Laid Back Bike Report.
Thank you, Gary. You're very welcome. I guess I should have worn my hat, but I don't want to lose any more hair.
Right. Well, it does cover up some things.
So thank you.
All right, George. Thanks a lot, pal.
Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, there it is, George and the coroplast fairing. So, all right, let's move along now to Battle Mountain. Larry, you want to bring Trey and Barney up, if you would. We will just kind of intro this segment and talk about why there's going to be this emphasis on Battle Mountain. So joining us besides Trey is Barney Harle from the British Human Power Club. Barney's been on before. Hi, how you doing today, Barney?
Afternoon, Gary. Glad to see you guys and looking forward to seeing you in the flesh later in the year.
Absolutely. So what he's talking about is what we've been talking about. Trey and I are heading out to Battle Mountain, as we've mentioned, to cover the World Human Powered Speed Challenge, as it's called. And there are a number of teams that will be competing to be the fastest bikes on Earth, actually. And Barney and a friend of his, Russell Bridge, who you'll see in the video coming up here, have worked very hard as a team to put together a streamliner, and they're going to tell us all about that. Before we get to that, though, I just wanted to ask Trey about some of his expectations for our trip to Battle Mountain. What are you hoping to see there, Trey?
Well, I looked it up. I couldn't remember the exact speed, but it's 89.59 miles an hour, I think, is the current record. And you know, I think it's cool the way each team builds what they build to accomplish their goal. So, you know, every team's got something different. It's similar but different how they tackle that stuff, and it's just really cool to see all the engineering that they do. If y'all have never looked at some of the plans for some of these bikes, you really should. It's amazing what they do. And another thing I wanted to mention, I don't think many people think about this, but you know, in the past we've talked about how if you build infrastructure for bicycles and things like that, then people show up. And think about what Nevada did. They've actually repaved this 5-mile section of road just for this. So they've got people coming from around the world to Battle Mountain, Nevada. You know, you turn this little bitty town into packed with people, and you know, for this little section event, it's a great boom for them, you know, during that time frame. So I don't think many people think of that either.
Nope. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to head out there next month, and we're going to get a chance to talk to all the different teams that are there and find out about what they had to do to get there, what their builds were about, what the problems they encountered and what their hopes are and what they accomplished. But in order to really get a focus on this, what I wanted to do was to look at one particular team in real depth. And that's what this is. This is the 77 project that Barney and Russell were involved with. And I think maybe we'll start right there. Let's have a look at this video, and we'll come back at the other side of this video and sum it all up. So, Larry, let's have a look. All right, guys, we today are here with Barney Harle and Russell Bridge, direct from the scorching hot site of the UK. I guess you guys are suffering a heat wave there. So we're going to try to make this a cool interview, see what we can do. So guys, if you would, let's start with Barney and then Russell. If you could introduce yourselves to the audience and tell them a little bit about your recumbent history and maybe racing history.
So I'm Barney Harle. I've raced with the BHPC now for about 15 years. Started in 2007. I've been riding recumbent since about 1997. My first one was a recumbent tandem, home built by a friend. Raced various things, and the engineering and the fun of build is one of the reasons I'm in this.
Very good. And Russell, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
So I'm Russell Bridge. I've been racing recumbents a little shorter than Barney, 2010, 2011. I was fortunate enough to come across a no-com that was up for sale at the time I started. So I've been riding that for about 10 years. Borrowed various other trikes and bikes along the way, and have had an increasing interest in streamliners since starting following Battle Mountain with Sam Whittingham cracking 80 miles an hour, whenever that was, 2008, was it?
That was a while back. So what we're here to talk about today is Battle Mountain and your attempt to design, build, and race at Battle Mountain 2022 this September, and an exciting prospect. So why don't we start out maybe with Russell? If you could, why don't you tell us about, well, first the name of your project, and then describe it to us. Tell us how it came about.
Well, so the bike's called 77. There's a few kind of reasons for that. I was born 77. The UK record is 76 miles an hour, so it would be incredible if we got to go 77. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but we'll give it our best shot. The project came about. I was the rider for London South Bank, their project in 2018 and 2019. I got brought in very last minute on both attempts. We went out there with quite an untested bike that we had to rebuild extensively out there. Phenomenal project for the students. Working in the field for engineering students was incredible, but we didn't get to go very fast. We only got a couple of runs down the course. So I decided about 18 months ago that I'd start my own team.
What was the name of that project and streamliner, Russell? The previous?
It was Suit Dragon. So it was London South Bank entered Battle Mountain with a bike, Suit Dragon, and then a year later it was called Velociraptor, renamed to Velociraptor after we rebuilt it extensively out of parts mostly salvaged from the local scrap heap in Battle Mountain.
Very good, very good. All right, so that brings us to the beginning of your project called 77. Tell us the people that are involved besides Barney Harle and Russell Bridge. Who else is involved in this project?
So we've got two other BHPC members, Andrew Sidwell and John Lucian. Both are fast riders who've tinkered extensively. They'll be really good people to have out here, out in Battle Mountain. And I think both of them have had an interest for the past few years, following what we've done, what Dave Larrington's fantastic reports that he does when he's out in Battle Mountain. So as well as that, I've got my partner Bernie coming out, and we're bringing our two 14-year-old daughters as well to help out.
Twins.
Twins, yeah. I suspect we'll be mostly lounging around the pool, but they'll be roped into launch and catch, I think, if we can.
I've got to say, Bernie's been one of the most important people in this project, in that she allowed us to cure the resin for the molds in her living room. Not many wives allow that.
That is, yeah, you've got to make some, I think you've got to make some allowances when you have a husband that is doing what Russell is doing. All right, so why don't we start diving into this? Russell, could you tell the folks all about the 77 project? And I know you're going to show us some pictures here.
Okay, so I'll start with where we've started out with the design of this. I mean, I'll start out by saying Barney and I aren't engineers. We're enthusiastic home bike builders. I work as an architect. Barney works in construction management. We're good at organising things. We're good at bringing ideas together, but it's definitely been a huge learning curve, this for both of us. So I think with that in mind, where we started with was looking at other people's ideas, who'd done what before, what the fastest bikes in the world look like. So this is my 2D overall CAD file. This is 5 very, very fast bikes that we used as precedent. So this is the French team's Altair 6 bike. This is Team Recumbent's Taurus bike. This is Aerovelo's Etta bike. This is one of Matt Weaver's. I think this is actually an hour record bike, 'cause it's only a single speed. And then this is the latest Team Elan bike, the Dutch privateer entry. So in all of these, we started looking at how the drivetrains worked, how people have solved various problems, and really taking advice from people we respected on where the aerodynamics were working of these bikes, where they weren't. So the bike that we've designed is very, very similar in shape to the French team's, the Altair 6 bike. You can see that it's only really the tail that's different. But you see when you take these bikes across that the shape of them is so similar on all of them. The it's an incredibly similar design that everyone seems to have honed in on. This Dutch team is very good, and this seems to be a slightly smaller one, just based around a female rider, but it's a very good machine.
That's almost the thing here. We're looking at a package to close rider, so this is the smallest package we can get. One of the first meetings I had with Russ, he had me go around him inside a mould and make sure there's no more than 10 millimeters of clearance between his shoulders and his knees and his elbows. So this is the smallest package into which you can fit one Russ.
So yeah, it's definitely designed around a 5'10.5" Russ, 75, 77 kilos, something like that, and nothing bigger and nothing smaller will fit in this bike. So this was a iterative process of 2D, just designing, and then once we'd got this to a point where we thought it worked, we then took it into 3D. So it's not SolidWorks that most teams use, it's 3D Max that I use for architectural work. But this is a 3D file where we're testing out various things like do the feet fit in, the shoulders fit in, all the key points. The helmet is really tight around here, and then starting to build the frame and the drive train and checking chain paths and things like that. One of the key things we wanted to do with the design was make sure that we could test it in the UK. And the problem with testing in the UK is that we've got no ovals or bowls or anything like that to test on. There's one at Mira, there's one at Millbrook. Neither of them will let bikes on because of fear of them going under the Armco. So for health and safety reasons, they just won't let bikes on. So the best things we've got are the UK circuits that we use for recumbent racing, which Barney and I are really familiar with. And there's a couple of other venues, outdoor velodromes, 450 metre outdoor velodromes, and a couple of runways that we can get access to that are 1.5 miles long. So what we wanted to do was make sure that this bike was testable in the UK, and we've made some design decisions that make sure that can happen. So 20-inch wheels, an 80-tooth front sprocket, but crucially there's a gap between them so that we can get enough turning on the front wheel to make it circuit raceable in the UK. And then the second thing was to make this booster seat, which is the blue highlighted element here, come in and out of the bike so that I can raise my head up to a point where I can see out. So these are the two configurations. So this is with the screens in place and a camera on top, and no booster seat. And then just jumping back, this is the booster seat. So this has worked really well for us. So where we then went after we'd done the 3D design was to do a negative mock-up with OSB sheets. So these were the first ones, just testing whether my shoulders fit in the seat and testing whether the cranks fit. And this is me in it. This is what Barney was saying. We tested this. Is it too big? Is there enough slack? Does it work? Until we got to a point where we thought it was about right. And then more and more and more sheets went in until we were happy with everything. And there was crucially the pedal clearance work. So these are 130mm cranks, very narrow Q factor. So it's just under 100mm Q factor. But the whole design, the whole aerodynamics of the bike flow from the size of this pedal box. It gets gradually bigger from the pedal box. So the smaller you can make this pedal box, the better.
It's worth noting here, Gary, Russ goes through extremes to get himself down to the size there. Although he's got size 10 feet, those are size 8 shoes. And what he's done is he's torn all of the inner sheaths out of the shoe so that effectively there's space to squeeze his size 10s into size 8 outer.
So he's got some sort of Cinderella complex.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I got it. Very interesting. All right.
So from there, we then started making the front end mechanical. So this was an old carbon time trial frame with a tapered head tube that I wanted to steal rather than try and make a head tube myself. This was the foam layup for all the front end components. So that's all of these individual components made individually in foam, and then those were then wrapped in wet layup carbon. So this was me and Barney experimenting for the first time with carbon. We got a bit more advanced, but this is very simple clothes vacuum bags to get the vacuum working, just with a domestic hoover taking the air out. These were the components which came out amazingly well, if slightly heavy because the foam is still in there. And then this is the front end mechanicals mocked up for the first time. A similar process with a seat that's wet layup over a metal former. These were the cranks, which is just a pair of steel kids cranks, 150 mil that were cut down and re-welded to take the Q factor down even further. I'd been able to weld a good 20 years ago, but I'd completely forgotten, so I had to reteach myself arc welding. It's a bit rough and ready, but it works. We got a local frame builder to make these forks up. It's a tapered head tube on here to fit the tapered head tube in the TT frame, and then framed forks to fit the 406 front wheel with an inverse disc mount on it.
And this is one of the rare pieces that actually Russ hasn't personally manufactured. So
you can tell because it looks professionally made.
This plus the wheels are about the only thing on the project which Russ hasn't had us manufacture in his garage.
So these are the handlebars, again, just mild steel, stick welded up. This was the bike, the front end starting to come together. That video was waiting for the wheels to arrive. The wheels were made by a Chinese company I found called SMC, who made these dual 6-bolt fixings on 100 mil over lock nut distance. One of these 6-bolt fixings is further inboard than the other to get the chain line working, but SMC made these direct and done a great job. And then this was pretty much the first time all the front end mechanicals worked together. So we've tried to keep with standard components as much as we can. So this is a standard, it's slightly thinner, 126 mil hub with a freewheel in it. It's an 11-speed derailleur on the far side. That's the disc and the sprocket mounted on the hub. It's it's a TRP Spire cable-mounted disc, which I've got on most of my road bikes. I think they work really well. I don't have the faff of sorting hydraulics out. So this is an 11-speed cassette on this side, but we've had to cut it down to 9-speed because the lower wheel of the derailleur clashed. You can see there it's very, very close with the front tyre. So when we put the tyre on, we had to take out the top two sprockets. So it's down to 9-speed, but that seems to work really well for us. So when we were confident that the front end was made, to get it, we realized we were quite a way away from having a shell made. So to get us racing and to get practicing on this and to check that the geometry all worked, we welded up a steel frame for this. So this is the front end mechanicals that go in the bike, welded onto some 40 by 20 mil box section that Barney happened to have in his garage.
Where are we right here in terms of dating?
We're probably we've been about 18 months overall on this build, so this is probably 4 months into it. So this is about September last year.
September
like that.
You did Darley Moor on the pig iron last year, so that must.
That's a good point. That's August, isn't it? Yeah. So it's pretty.
Early August.
Right.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was the first run of the bike. so that there's no chain on, but it's just checking that the frame all works okay. This is down the road outside my house. This was making the booster seat out of some polystyrene with a hot wire cutter that I made.
So again, we actually had to make the tools. This wasn't just let's make a bike, let's make the tools, let's make the molds, let's make everything. So some real ingenuity from Russ on making hot wire cutters.
So that's the booster seat made, and then this is it. This is it at a point where I could then start taking it to races and testing it. The lock mimics exactly what we've got at Battle Mountain, so it's 6 degrees of lock either way. This was testing it on a straight road near our house when it was all made. Some nice Manchester Mills in the background there. And then this is at the first race, which was Darley Moor in August last year. So a huge variety of machines that the BHPC riders race. Me starting very tentatively at the back. I think there's a video from Tim in his velomobile. So this is, I don't know what we were doing, 22, 23 mile an hour here, something like this. It's quite a lot of these first races was getting my legs used to the very narrow Q factor and 130 mil length cranks. It's you get real pain in your shins until you're used to it. This was a month later, once I'd got a bit more used to the steering at a tighter track down in the south of England. But quite strange that you can't go slow round the corners. You've got to go fast and lean rather than steer. So there's a point kind of below about 16 mile an hour where you can't go around the corners, but then it's quite, well, you just need to take some brave pills before you go around the track. And then once winter set in and the BHPC racing stopped, we thought it'd be a good idea to try and get this working on rollers. So we got hold of some cheap rollers off eBay that weren't long enough. Normal bike wheelbase is about 1 meter, and whereas 77 is about 1.2 meters. So took the rollers out, remade this with some lengths of timber. Tried to start riding it, which didn't go very well at all. The main reason for this was because that we stupidly had put these rollers back to front on here, and what we hadn't realized was that the steerable front wheel needs to go on the single roller. So as soon as we turned it round, it started getting a little bit easier. Still really wobbly for the first few times.
Russ, thank you for putting these in. This is really the video that I wanted to show the viewers of you falling off the rollers.
This was getting a bit faster on the rollers. So through winter, I've been practicing every few days, mainly just building up the right muscles. And then we got to a point where we couldn't put off building the shells any longer. So we started off with quarter scale tests. So this was a quarter scale plug that I got machined down. So these are about 600 mil long. What's that? About 2 foot long. That we did for testing purposes, just to teach ourselves how to make the mold, the plugs and the molds and the shells.
It's worth saying I've done quite a bit of composite work with boats before, but had never worked with carbon. And Russ was really nervous about all of this, and we've learned this. We've got to say, great shout out to the guys at Easy Composites, whose videos on YouTube can teach you so much about composite engineering, and without them would have been stuck. The number of nights we stood around in that garage watching and re-watching 30 seconds of a video on the tablet was incredible.
Yeah, we realised that some of the teams that are entering are hugely more advanced than we are. That, you know, the stuff that Recumbent are posting on their workshop in Turin is phenomenal. That's real pro level stuff. We're not there, but we're not far behind. So this is gel coat going on, coupling coat, and then the Unimold system. and then flipped upside down and polished up. These look like this. You can see they're fairly rough. There's a few dints in there, a few scratches. But what that allowed us to do was make some quarter scale tests of the shells. So this is us trying out infusion molding technique.
And there's the advancement. We've gone up from a Henry the Hoover to actually a proper vacuum pump. This is one of the skills we really had to learn, how to pop a shell out of a mould.
So this was the first one that we did. It's a skin of glass fibre on the outside. You can see it's not really worked brilliantly, but it's strong and it's fairly light. What that did allow us to do was refine the technique, do it again and again until we had something working a lot better, and that until we got to a point where we were getting something like this out of the shell on these quarter scale tests, which we were really happy with. And then we couldn't put this off any longer. These were the full size molds that a company in London machined for us. These are the full size plugs. This was collecting them in a van and then painting them up, filling it, painting it, sanding it, painting it, sanding it, repeat until you've got something that looks pretty good and you can polish down to 2000 grit. So again, exactly what we'd learned from the quarter scale tests with the full size plugs, gel coat, coupling coat, and then the unimold system coming on.
And this was a massive night of pouring resin. Each of those molds has about 36 kilograms of fibre and resin on it. So constantly making up another 10 pounds of resin in a batch each time.
Well, it is going to be a speed challenge, and you can clearly see you guys are working on your speed right from the start here. This is great. Okay, keep going.
So these are the full size molds. After we'd done this was actually making the shells themselves. So this is 200 grams of glass fibre first, which is sandable and will skid down the road quite well in Battle Mountain. Another 200 grams, the first 200 gram layer of carbon fibre. Second layer of carbon fibre going in and trimming it up all the way around the edge just to try and keep this as neat as possible. And then a core material. So this is again from Easy Composites, a core material called Lantor Soric. That's a 3 mil core. Lots of standing around thinking, working out where to cut it, and then one more layer of carbon fibre on the inside, and then the final layer of carbon Kevlar just to get some crash protection in case something goes spectacularly wrong when we're out there and we have a huge crash. So then this is the infusion layup on the right hand side, and then vacuum bagging it on the left hand side. This is a great stop motion of the infusion coming through the whole shell that the vacuum pump on the end is sucking through. Very nervous here. There's not much you can do other than standing around watching and praying that I don't know what was probably 1,000 quid's worth of material is gone into this.
I think this is where you appear back with a cup of tea, isn't it, at some point? What you also notice is while we were doing that resin infusion, we were both in T-shirts. We had the heating on in that garage over winter to some extreme temperatures. I dread to think what it's done for Russ's electricity bill.
Yeah. So this was a lot. This was popping the molds out of the shell, which for a few seconds there was actually, I don't know what, an hour's worth of work, Barney, to really pop them out.
All those strips of cardboard, we went through some cardboard wedges that night.
So this was trimming up the molds. So you've got two very neat edges to join together. As Barney mentioned before, this was them curing in my living room for a few days at a temperature that was far higher than the garage. This was back in the garage then, putting the hull formers in. So the rear wheel gets mounted at this end, and this is a mount for the bottom of the front end mechanicals. And then you've got 3 strips here, a top mount for the front end mechanicals, a roll hoop that's at the front of the hatch, and a roll hoop that's at the back of the hatch. That's the process of vacuum bagging those hull formers, and then testing whether the front end mechanicals will all fit in, whether the seat fit, whether the wheels fit, which thankfully they did. Joining the shells together with carbon fibre and 100mm strip of glass fibre over the top of it, just to make sanding a little bit easier. Bagging the 2 halves when they've been joined together, leaving those for a few days to cure. And then a fantastic point where we finally got to see the full size bike. It's a little bit rough where it's come out of the shells. Started sanding that down together, but it's a great point where you see the bike in full size. And then very
That was proper nervous night.
That was cutting the hatch out for the first time. We then had to get inside the bike and put another joining strip on the inside and start putting the bulkhead mount in. And
that's actually upside down, that shot, isn't it? Because we were climbing in with it suspended. That's the rollover
yes, at the
bottom.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
May I ask what do you use to cut the carbon fiber shell when you're cutting these things out? What do you use?
Well, that was actually.
If you scroll back a couple of videos, you've got the vibrating tool, multi-tool, haven't you? Where you cut the edges.
Yeah, that was quite useful. I think this was actually cut with a fine metal blade in a jigsaw. We tried a few things on testing whether it was Dremels or a reciprocating tool, but a fine like 0.5 mm wide metal cutting blade and jigsaw seemed to work really well. So this was the bulkhead ready to go in, and then test fitting the mechanicals, which they kind of fit. This was it was our only real screw up on the job, was at exactly this point here. It worked on this bit, looks like it goes past here all fine in 2D, but it's only when you get into 3D and you realize how wide this is that you realize these don't fit. So in order to get these front end mechanicals in and out of the bike, we've had to shave a bit off here, and the front tire needs to be deflated to get in and out. But it's not too bad an error. See, it's a bit of a squeeze, but that's how the front end mechanicals go in. So this was the first proper fit of everything: rear wheel, the seating with a bit of padding on it, front end mechanicals. I think that's the bulkhead. So you've got four bolt mounts at the far end, and then you've got 5 or 6 degrees of steering lock either way. But it's very, very tight in there. This was the bike's first test ride with my daughter Amelia in the driver's seat. And then in preparation for our first test ride, we made a Kevlar shell just so that when we fell over, it gave a bit of abrasion resistance on the side. That's the Kevlar shell, and then a few other little final bits for it. This is a cover for the rear wheel so that when the rear wheel's spinning, it will pump air through this tube. So that's how I get air to my face when I'm in the bike. You get air coming through here, and then it turns round and squirts at my face when I'm in the bike. And then the 4-point harnesses going in. Test fitting those. I can't explain how much trepidation there was on this from everyone.
It was horrible. We'd had 2 or 3 goes on the flat running track, but that bank doesn't look like any sort of bank. It's about 12 degrees, and it was just horrific. Trying to walk on the bank, support you. We were all nervous. Nobody would give it any effort. Yeah. And that, when you talk about timeline, Gary, that's about 12 months in.
Yeah, this was March, I think, this year, wasn't it, when we got this? But we were here for a couple of hours. We quite quickly realised that we could do a lap. We could then do 2 laps. We could work out, how fast we were going. It was quite windy on the day, so we had a bit of side wind to contend with, but we quite quickly got to a point where we were confident in riding without the shell on.
So would you say this is the point where you felt like you could do this? I mean, up until now, you didn't really know with the shell on, which is how you would ultimately be testing it. You felt good about it at this point.
Yeah. This was a 2-hour session where at the start we could have quite easily just written off the last 9 months and said this has been an entire waste of time, to get to a point where where we were lapping at high 20s, like 28, 29, 30 mile an hour.
The first couple of laps, we stood there very nervously running around the track watching him. Within about 2 or 3 goes, we were then grabbing stopwatches and trying to work out how fast he was going. It was great that he progressed so quickly.
So this was about a month later then. So this is one of the UK cycle tracks that we were testing on. If I press play here, you can see it's got David's commentary over the top of it. But you can see how tight to track it is. This is David on his high race, is it a Zocra that David races? David's unbelievably fit. He's fast in the corners, so I was slowing. I can't lean it over any further than I was doing there, so I was limited to 22, 23 mile an hour in the corner. Yeah,
we had a couple of scars in the bottom of the bike from cornering, not because it'd been down the track, just because Russ had lent it so far into the corners.
So you can see through the corners that David's starting to pulling away, but on the straights, I was flying past him. And this was obviously without the shell on. This is on the booster seat, so I can see where I'm going. And we strapped a GoPro on for some of the later laps. So there's all sorts of machines race at the BHPC. So this is the faster race. There's 3 velomobiles here. The front one is one of the Snooks, which is really fast. The Quattrovelo. We've just overtaken a couple of 2-wheelers and a unfair trike. But this track in Essex was fantastic.
At this point here, when you have the sound on, you can actually hear the carbon grating along the floor.
And then from that point, it was really starting to refine the shell. So sanding, as I said, when we were making it up, the outer layer is a 200 gram glass twill. So it's really good for sanding it smooth. Lots of filler on the join. Again, just sanding it, priming it, filling all the tiny holes. So this is about what it looks like at the moment. It's going into the paint shop 8th of August, when's that, about 2 or 3 weeks away. But it's a very light coat of primer just to allow us to see where the holes and the dimples are. Hopefully they're all out now, so it's all sanded down to 240 grit at the moment. And then the last thing really we had to manufacture was the video screen system. So this was a 3D mock-up. This was the frame made in carbon sheet. And then these are the screens. So I've got a main screen here, which is a 10-inch main screen, 5-inch backup screen. I've got my Garmin, which is on a speed sensor on the rear wheel. And then this was an early mock-up of the cameras. So the cameras sit on top of the bike. And then this is what we've ended up with as the final camera solution. So the main camera is the top one and the backup is the lower one. So this is what it looks like from a rider's perspective. This is the screen going on. This is the point you get sealed into the bike. So you've got the main screen on the bottom and the backup screen at the top. And then after we'd raced on the UK circuits, we decided to try and get access to a runway. So this is Elvington near York. We had access to 2 parts of this runway, the service road that runs alongside the main runway, and then a longer main straight. So the service road was about 0.8 of a mile, and then this was about 1.5 miles on the main runway. The surfaces on neither of them is particularly brilliant. It's quite bumpy, but this is as good as it gets in the UK for testing. So this is running on the service road. So what we're doing, just under 40 miles an hour here with a Kevlar shell on. You can see how much the front end of the bike is bumping up and down on the rough surface, but it feels all right. We haven't gone any faster than 45 on the UK, but it's feeling okay at that speed. So we just, at the end of that video, we passed 2 flags. So that was the point of my start of my braking zone. This is the screen from inside the bike. So those 2 cones are what we've just passed. Right, that screen has deliberately gone black there. So the connections, 2 of the connections hadn't been made properly in the bike. So the main video cut out while I was riding this, and I had to quickly jump my eyes to the backup screen.
Russ, can I ask a question about the monitor, the screen? Did it take some getting used to learn to ride with a monitor without any outside visual?
There isn't really anything you can do to prepare yourself for it. It feels like a very different riding experience to riding a normal bike. I tried practicing in Battle Mountain last time I was there just by riding along on a recumbent and holding a phone in front of my face, but it's amazing how much information you pick up from your peripheral vision. It's definitely different riding it on the monitors, but the balance kind of comes quite quickly. When I showed before a prototype of the camera system, what failed quite spectacularly on one of the first runs we had was that the camera went slightly off vertical, so my horizon wasn't horizontal in the screen, and I just couldn't ride it without off center. I know that Larry Lem's got a different opinion on this, but I found that I had to have that horizon absolutely horizontal to be able to balance. So this was the run on the main. We had 2 runs on the main runway.
At this point, I was driving the chase car. I'd set Russ off. I had 2 helpers in the car, one of whom was screaming, slow down, you're overtaking him. And one was screaming, speed up, we need to get to the capture zone. And I knew that all Russ wanted was some good film. So it was chaos in the car. It was like 3 children fighting.
So that was running down the runway. This was my screen vision. You can see the resolution isn't very good on this. This is just on the DVR that's on the screen. The actual resolution is quite a lot better than this on the actual screen. Barney also gave us a challenge here that at this point here, as I'm coming up, so we'd said to each other that as we went over the numbers on the runway, this was our braking zone. So at this point, I'm doing 45 mile an hour. Barney decided to stop very, very quickly and leap out. So we know that the brakes work.
Yeah, we'd also had a miscommunication about where you were going to stop, because I thought you wanted to stop on the black stuff. This runway is 3 miles in total, Gary, and it was actually a reserve runway for the space shuttle if it ever needed to land in Europe.
My goodness.
There's only 1.5 miles of good tarmac.
And did you have to coordinate with air traffic control when you were coming to a stop and landing there?
Yes, as you can see behind in this shot, we actually had to ask an airplane owner to move his airplane out the way for us.
So was this, seriously, was this an active runway? Did they?
Yes.
So they just wouldn't allow planes to take off or land during this period of time that you had reserved, yeah?
It's a private field, so it was reserved for the whole day for motorsport racing. And we were there with Sky TV and a number of local celebrities. And we snuck in and used the service road. And while they had their lunch, we then went out on the main runway.
At the end of the day, we'd got a bit of time spare, so we decided to do some tuft testing. So this is lightweight wool 4-inch strips just held onto the bike with sellotape, really just to try and visualize what the air is doing as it moves over the shell. So this is about 40 miles an hour.
and back on the bumpy service road at this
Yeah,
point.
you can see how much, I'll replay this video, but you can see how much the front of the bike is bouncing up and down, which we think is causing most of the tuft movement at the front of the bike. But where it's stable in the middle, it seems to be flat again. The goal is that you have laminar airflow to about, well, as far down the bike as you can, but realistically between 2/3 and 3/4 of the way down the bike. And then from this point, it then transitions to as smooth a turbulent flow as you can. So really, we knew these strips at the back would be moving a little bit. The goal is that they're not really flapping around as much as this one is, but it was certainly better than we've seen other streamliners. We can't really do anything with this now. We're not planning to change the shell of the bike or anything like that. It's really just for our interest to see what's actually going on. And then the last thing we've been doing is building the shipping crate, which is about ready to do. And then this is the render of the bike that's going in to the paint. So it's a nice bright blue paint that we're using on the shell.
All right, so let me ask a few questions here as we finish up then. First of all, so we've seen you design it and build it, and you've got a crate. You're going to bring it over. What do you hope to achieve? What are your expectations for Battle Mountain? What do you think you can do?
Well, I think as a low expectation, I came away last time with a 55-mile-an-hour hat. So the low expectation is to beat that. If everything goes incredibly well, hopefully we're going to be chasing Liverpool's UK record at 76 mile an hour. But I know there's a long way to go before we get there.
Yeah, it seems like you should have a reasonable shot at that. All right, so now on the other end of it, what's the biggest worry? What is keeping you up at night at this point as far as this whole trip and competition goes? What are you worried about?
I don't know. Where'd you start? COVID reoccurring, shipping all going horribly wrong, flights not working on the day. Yeah, there's a lot of logistics to getting a team of 7 people out there. We're hopefully joining up with London in San Francisco, hiring a van together to get the crates from San Francisco to Battle Mountain. So that should be a little bit easier. But yeah, there's quite a lot to go yet to get a bike. So there's almost a sense of onto the start line.
There will almost be a sense of relief just getting to Battle Mountain and getting the 77 at the start line. You will have accomplished a lot at that point.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Gary, but we have absolute chaos in the airports in the UK at the minute. Post COVID, a lot of staff have left, and air travel is chaotic at the minute.
Yeah, there are some hurdles there, obviously, but we're going to hope for the best there. So, all right, you mentioned briefly, Russ, about the parts of the show you're working on. You had like 1,000 pounds worth of cost in there. Can you give us an idea what it costs to put together a project like this? You're not done yet, so I know you can't give us a
well, I think the shipping and getting everyone out there is probably going to cost more than it will to actually make the bike. I haven't been keeping a total, but it's going to be somewhere around £5,000 to £6,000. So what we on there? About $7,000, I guess, something like that.
All right, let's ask a more philosophical question, Russ. Why do you do this? What is the purpose of this for you? How does this fit into your life? Why are you doing this?
This was, you kindly pre-sent some of these questions through to us to give us time to think about this, and I still haven't got an answer to this. I've always liked going fast in various machinery. I've wanted to, I mentioned at the start, seeing Sam going down the course at Battle Mountain at 80 mile an hour is phenomenal. So I've wanted to do that for a long time. Was very lucky to go out with London. Some frustrations with their team with how the bike came together and logistics in not getting a bike out there that was ready to run. So at a point a couple of years ago, I said, well, I'm starting to have a little bit of free time as kids get a bit older. So I decided to channel a lot of effort into this and give it a proper crack myself. And I've been very, very lucky to have Barney join me and put a huge amount of his own time and effort into it. And the same with Andrew and John and my partner Bernie and the kids who've been very understanding as well.
I've got to say, Gary, there's no feeling like 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night in a cold garage in Stirling-Bridge when that piece of carbon comes out of the mould and these two fellas are so elated just to see a shiny piece of plastic come out of the mould. Yeah?
Well, I think there may be one feeling that is like that, or even better, and that's with you guys standing there at Battle Mountain, having gone 77 miles an hour or better. So let's see if you can beat that. That would be wonderful. And I am so excited to hopefully be there to watch that happen and to share the experience there with you guys. Trey and I will be there and supporting you, and we'll be taking a look at the whole picture, but we're going to be focusing on you because we will have followed you from basically the start now. So it's very exciting. Any final thoughts, Barney? Final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of guys I work with are amazed by what we're doing. It is hard to get to Battle Mountain, but anybody can build a bike. Have a go. The feeling is incredible when you ride and push off on that bike that you've built for the first time.
And Russell, what about you?
Well, I think I've probably said everything I need to about the bike. But for anyone that's watching this in the UK, then come and join us racing at the BHPC. It's a fantastically open, all-encompassing, very welcoming event. Everyone from 8 mile an hour up to 38 mile an hour. It's all riders welcome.
And I'll throw my 2 cents worth in, or 2 pence, or whatever it is. The British Human Power Club, guys. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, the best recumbent club in the world. I'm familiar with many of them, but these guys are amazing, very welcoming. If you are interested at all and you're in the UK, join those guys. I've joined them from afar. So, all right, I think we're going to leave it there. Like I said, can't wait to meet you guys face to face at Battle Mountain in a couple of months. We wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much, both of you, for spending time with us, the viewers of the Laid Back Bike Report.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Well, if you're looking for a team to support at Battle Mountain, I think you couldn't go wrong choosing the 77 team. So Barney, that was just remarkable. It was a number of our live chat viewers called it nail biting. It's really interesting to see from the very beginning, everything that goes into what it takes just to get to Battle Mountain, not even necessarily to win there. So Barney, if we could, I think just to bring us absolutely up to date, Russ talked about sending the bike to the painters, and just so you saw the render of what it would look like, but Russ actually sent me a couple of pictures. Trey, can you pop up those pictures? So there's the 77 after its very recent paint job. It's looking very slick, very blue. And there's the rear of it. So that is the very latest. And okay, so Barney, and I know you've been away. You've been on vacation for a couple of weeks, so you probably don't have much to add to what was said there. But what are your feelings now at this point, getting ready to get to Battle Mountain?
Great trepidation. Tomorrow night, it's a bike build night, or a crate build night anyway. We're working tomorrow night to get all the paperwork ready for shipping the bike. As you can see, it's painted. So we're in those final throes of making shopping lists, what we buy at Walmart when we get to Sacramento.
Right. Yeah, you guys are coming in from the West Coast, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah, we're flying into San Fran, first night Sacramento, and we'll be visiting Walmart to pick up what we can't fly in with, ready for the week.
All right. Well, we had quite a few comments and questions during the video. Barney, if you can help me out with some of these, I'm going to pop them on the screen. first, we talked about in the video some of the history involved with what Russ had done before with the Soup Dragon and the previous bike. And Mike Burrows, many of you know, legendary designer builder from the UK, is not doing very well health-wise right now. He's having some very severe health problems. We want to wish him well, first of all. Most importantly, do you have any updates? Do you know anything that's going on with Mike right now?
I haven't got an update in the last week or so, but yeah, Mike is quite poorly. It's cancer. He's having problems with his lungs and having to have oxygen therapy at the minute.
Okay. Well, honestly, we wish you the very best here, all of us and everyone watching. Okay. Then Mike Smith asked, how would a streamliner do with the dimpled texture like a golf ball would have, something like that? You took pains to make that skin as smooth as possible, clearly, during that video. Anything you would say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we haven't tested. Let's be brutally honest. It's not been tested by us. Most of my composite learning came from the yachting industry, and I know that the America's Cup have tried various things like this. It's something which we believe, and we're being led to believe by the great and the good of aerodynamics, that it wouldn't work for us in streamliners, that the aerodynamics, the effect, and being able to create it, you would have to be very, very good in how you created those dimples.
And our pal Mike Mowat chimed in there
Great.
as well. Right, Mike, a very experienced builder, designer, and been to Battle Mountain many times. Chimed in on this as well.
Many thanks to Mike. He seemed to answer most of the questions as the chat went through.
We really appreciate that, Mike. And we're going to bring him up here. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this because he did mention this. So Mike says the latest trend is to reduce any seams on the front half of the fuselage. We're sticking with the aerodynamic part because seams can trip that boundary layer where it transitions, as you talked about. So many of the bikes have front halves that slide off or a top hatch at the rear. Consideration you guys were thinking about?
Yeah, we discussed, myself and Russ are from the same industry. We're both from construction, but we're from slightly different sides of it that are often at war. And we discussed our artistic differences during our build sessions and design sessions. This was the biggest point of debate between the two of us as to how the shell, should we make the shell as two halves that joined like that? Should we make it as two halves that joined like that? Did we split the shell like that? Russ had the shape that he wanted, and ultimately Russ has paid for this. It's Russ's project. Russ is a true privateer here, so he had the final say, and we've tried to minimize the seam point and then smooth that into it's almost flat at the seam point, so we were able to sand across that and achieve almost a seamless finish.
Very good. All right, and Glenn asked a question about the wheel diameters, and you guys talked about that in your machine. Is there a consensus about what to do as far as the size of the wheels?
No.
Of course not.
We are at the ends of the experimental science here. I think a lot of people now are running 406, and maybe a different size of wheel would be better. But one of the things is it's driven by tyre manufacturers. So we do need fast tyres, and they're only in certain sizes. And 406 is becoming very much a standard size, the conventional 20-inch wheel, if you like.
All right. And there was a bit of a discussion. There were some suggestions about other sorts of pedaling techniques, setups, maybe I should say. Linear pedaling instead of cyclic pedaling. Anything that you guys thought about?
We stuck with straightforward rotational pedals on a rotational bottom bracket, using materials and tools that we can buy off the shelf, and that if we get to a problem in America, we can go down to Walmart, we can cannibalize something out of the $126 bike range to get some of the parts. We've worked with guys in the UK who have what's called K-Drive. Miles Kingsbury put it onto the King Cycle Wasp, where the pedals worked in a very long oval travel, but those K-Drives are notorious for collapsing or jamming a bearing mid-race. So we stuck with what we know.
And what you could repair, and this is really important.
Mike,
sorry, go ahead.
Mike mentions there that Damian, I had the pleasure to race against Damian head to head when we were at the Worlds in 2008. And yeah, Damian lies on his back, looks at a 45-degree mirror above his face, and travels head first, but laid on his back, pedaling with his feet beyond the back wheel. Quite a weird setup, but he did it, and it reduced his pedal box. We didn't consider anything that radical.
All right. Now, Mike Lecca, the current designer of the Velotil, asks about carbon and Anegra as far as what you might use to build this. What have you thought about? What did you think about this?
Sorry, I don't know what Anegra is. Hopefully somebody can Google and tell us, or should I Google it now?
Yeah, Google it now. We're going to go on to the next question here. And
Anegra looks like a plain weave mix. I think we've used what Mike would be calling Anegra. So we've used a 50-50 carbon and aramid mix on the inner skin to give that crash protection. If it shatters, it won't shatter the way carbon would. Yeah, so very similar to what looks like Anegra is the inner layer of this and the crash protection.
All right. And Mike was back with this comment on road vibration, which you guys clearly showed on the airport runway. He said that it can kill aerodynamics, and they did it. Well, he talks a little bit about the Aerovelo, which is the world record holder. They isolated the chassis with vibration dampeners to show how important that was. Matt Weaver pioneered that 20 years ago, apparently. So what about what can you do about the vibration?
We can't do anything about it. Our system is a monocoque. The wheels and the seat bolt directly to the outer shell, and the frame, the front wheel drive propulsion bolts directly to the elephant's foot between Russ's legs and onto the bulkhead. It's been designed as a monocoque. It will suffer vibration. Russ is happy, having ridden on Battle Mountain Highway, that it's smooth enough. He'll take that risk. When we're racing at Scunthorpe, when he's been racing at Gravesend and at Colchester, very happy, no problem with vibration. As soon as you get on that perimeter track, the perimeter track of that runway was built in 1942, Bomber Command for World War II. And since then, people have just slapped a bit of tarmac on top of it. The main runway is very, very smooth, and it's used for world record attempts on motorbikes. And it was totally different when Russ got on the main runway. So, yeah, it's a risk, but I believe, and Russ has seen it firsthand, that it's a good road in Battle Mountain.
So you can count on that, I think. All right. Lastly, Mike is commenting on the last time that Russ was out. We talked about the South Bank University team that he rode for, and the amazing story, which we really didn't discuss there. Mike says last time there, Russ and South Bank University team rebuilt the bike from the front wheel drive hub steering to rear wheel drive and traditional front fork in only 4 days. That's kind of a major overhaul, I would say, to do in 4 days.
Yeah, I'll be polite. I think the guys at London South Bank do an incredible job teaching their students. But I turned up to their test day mid-July when their bike was going to be shipped 3 weeks later, and we had to send out for parts then. It's very hard for a student team to fit in a conventional degree approach and then to build a bike. And I'm seeing, Gary, that I'm involved in the flying guides with the UK and Southampton University there as well. So it's incredible doing these things as students. It might be more than one bunch of students can do in one academic year. So what you end up with is, as all students, you may have been one yourself, you leave things to the last minute. And what they did in America was incredible. Better preparation would help for some of these student teams. And you can't teach that. You have to learn it. And those guys learned the hard way. And they learned an enormous amount by being at Battle Mountain. They learned even more doing that rebuild in those 4 days.
And learning is what it's all about at Battle Mountain too. As we'll learn next month when we talk to Al and Alice, the teams share very generously what it is that they've worked on, what they have, how they help each other out. They all root for each other. It's a very special thing that I'm looking forward to seeing myself when I'm there next month. Looking forward to seeing you and Russ there as well. We'll be rooting you guys on. And yeah, Barney, thank you so much for popping in live with us today to share this remarkable video of the story of your build of the 77. So we'll see you next month, pal.
Look forward to seeing you in the States.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
All right, guys, we are going to move on now to a video by Nina Paley. This is all about her new gravel grinder laid back recumbent bike. I think it's kind of an interesting story. Have a look.
I love riding my recumbent road bikes, but I hate the gravel around here. It's mostly paved, but if I hit just a mile of gravel, I am so sad. And this year I wanted to conquer the gravel, and for that I needed a different kind of recumbent bike. So I got this fabulous used Lightfoot Ranger, which is no longer made, unfortunately, and I got the widest tires for it. These are WTB Trail Boss tires, and they are supposedly 2.25 inches wide. This Ranger has an 8-speed cassette, and it has 3 chain rings up front. Came with a nice sturdy kickstand and disc brakes, of course. That makes it my only bike that I currently have that has disc brakes, and they are working fine. The handlebars are quite a bit wider than my Easy Racers bikes, and also they do not have a crossbar, which makes it more difficult to mount accessories. I was afraid it was going to be a monster, which is why I named this one Monster, but actually it feels pretty similar to my Easy Racers bike in spite of the larger front wheel. Good morning. I am taking my Lightfoot Ranger on its first mixed terrain ride this morning. You can see it behind me. At this point in the ride, I'm on the Kickapoo Rail Trail, which is crushed limestone. It's really not a bad surface. I've taken all my other bikes on this surface. Of course, it's going to be easier with tires like this. Much more stable. Look at this beautiful Central Illinois sunrise. The crushed limestone barely slows this bike down at all, but that's because it's really slow on pavement. So you can see the rail trail just ends. You will notice that this bike has no braze-ons for water bottles. I have ordered a couple water bottle strappy onto the framey things, but they have not arrived yet. So for me to drink, I gotta get water out of my bag. This bike is definitely slower. I assume it's because, well, the tires, they're low pressure tires. They're also heavy tires with heavy tubes. And it occurs to me that the front wheel, being larger than the 20-inch front wheels on my road vents, makes a heavier wheel. So I'm spinning heavier wheels. Oh, here we are at Homer Lake Park. I don't think I have ever gotten this tired out biking to Homer Lake Park. Big tree roots. Oh God. All right, that's a first. I've never ridden over those tree roots. So, whew, there's more tree roots. Whoops, I'm putting my feet down. Oh, still, I stayed seated. More tree roots. Oh boy. No wonder I hate this thing. Oh, yeah, my feet are down. Oh. All right, standing up for the first time. Oh. They're pretty difficult tree roots. Oh, wow. Oh. Well, I bet I could learn to ride over those on this bike. Oof. And now it's covered with spider webs, as is my face. All right. right, it's gravel time. That is gravel. I've been on worse. It could be thicker. There's actually patches where it's not too thick. But this stuff is big, chunky, serious gravel. So let's see how the Ranger handles that. I would be avoiding this on my road bike. Whoops! And here we are on the Lincoln Trail, my nemesis. Oh, hey, the gravel's low right now. Looks like they have gravel seasons on this road. I'm just finding as many gravel roads as I can, which is not difficult. I am in what I call a gravel trap, which means any direction I go is gravel. If I were on one of my other bikes, I would be so sad. I would be cursing. But on this bike, it's fine. Perhaps you are wondering, where does all this magnificent chunky gravel come from? Well, it comes from here. So here is some typical Central Illinois gravel. I don't like it, but it's not too bad today. And with these tires, it's just fine. Now this gravel over here, I would need a fat bike to ride on. Here's my foot for some comparison. To be honest, this gravel is so chunky, I didn't even ride this bike over it. I walked the Lightfoot Ranger over this gravel. This gravel is, yeah, that's too big. Yeah, not even gonna try that with the Ranger, but it does put the normal gravel into perspective. I think I can deal with it now.
All right. Well, she is dealing with it. And, Larry Seidman and Trey and I have talked over the last few months about recumbent riding on gravel. And it's becoming a thing, I think. And so I think we're going to follow up on this with some more stories later on this year. So if you got some ideas, let us know about gravel riding on a bent. All right, let's move along to viewer submissions. My pal Dennis Wells contacted me recently to talk about a parade that he joined as a veteran. And here's what he had to say. Hi, Gary. The 9th annual Salute to Veterans Parade took place on August 6th in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. My friend Max Shaver, his wife, and of course me, Dennis Wells, participated on our trikes. This is our 6th year riding the parade, and I look forward to it every year. With the trikes, we can maintain our pace, talk to people, shake hands, salute, and give out little flags. Now, we must have handed out more than 50 little stick flags to kids along the route. I talked about the laid back bike report and riding trikes to Korean vets, Vietnam vets, and newer vets from the last 20 years fighting in the Middle East. Maybe our little experience will get other senior veterans thinking about riding a trike in their local military parade. I'd recommend it to anybody that's interested. They will really enjoy it. Max and I are already talking about doing it again next year. So thank you very, very much, Dennis, for sending that in to us. And if you guys have anything you'd like to share for us on the next Laid Back Bike Report for our viewer submissions, send it to us at laidbackbikereport@gmail.com. We'll be happy to put that on for you. All right, let's tell you folks again, who are the amazing sponsors of the Laid Back Bike Report that make this all possible? Let's kick it off with our pals at TerraCycle. From fairings to headrests, whatever accessory you need, Pat and crew have you covered. And Trailside Trikes. If you find yourself in Florida near the Withlacoochee Trail or in Knoxville, Tennessee, check out Andrew's shop and amazing crew. And TerraTrike and Greenspeed Trikes. your vision, whatever it is, TerraTrike has a trike to take you there. And Greenspeed cutting-edge designs create performance through Aussie ingenuity. And Laid Back Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike, Ice, and Greenspeed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our megastore in Chariton. And Avenue Trikes. With the gearing you need and the comfort you want, it's time to enjoy riding again. They're in stock, ready to ship, and only $19.95. Dealer inquiries are welcome. And Azub. In addition to the titanium suspension, another technological gem brought to you by Azub is an optional folding mechanism. It is not only easy to operate, but works great and looks fantastic. And Recumbent PDX, Catrike's West Coast Megastore. Schedule your test ride on trikes with pedal assist electric from both Bosch and Bafang, roll-off and schlump component groups, and adaptive builds. Experience the joy of Catrike. And EcoCycles. Adding e-assist to your bent can be a daunting task. With total focus on customer service, the experts at EcoCycles make this upgrade simple and worry-free. Check out EcoCycles today. All right, folks. So next Laid Back Bike Report, we talked about a little bit earlier, September 4th, 2 p.m. Eastern time, as always, only 3 weeks from now instead of 4 weeks as usual. And we're going to have Alan and Alice Krause, the co-directors of Battle Mountain, for a discussion of what they're expecting this year and how it all works at Battle Mountain to prepare us for the Battle Mountain video that Trey and I will be creating when we're there. Also, we hope to have our pal John Hotkin, Inner Tuba, back on next month with an update on what he's been up to there in the UK. Been doing some home concerts and riding his trike and trailer with the tuba there. And he's got some news about his upcoming tour of the U.S. as well, I think. So look for that next month. Now, how can you support the Laid Back Bike Report, you might ask? Well, you can like us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can click that little white eye up there. It'll take you to the laidbackbikereport.com website. You'll find lots more information about what we do, what we have done, what we sell, our audio podcasts, all kinds of stuff. So head on over there. And you'll also find a link to our Patreon link. A link to our Patreon site would be a better way to say it. You can become a Patreon supporter like all these folks right here. And you can do it for as little as $1 a month. So thank you all, Patreon supporters, and I hope you'll become one if you aren't already. All right, let's say thanks to my amazing crew. Bring us all up here. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate what you guys do every month, and thank you for being with us today. So, guys, I appreciate you viewing today, sticking with us, and watching every month. So until next month, from all of us here at the Laid Back Bike Report, so long, bent riders.